Hi, this is Mike Maloney, and I'm joined with Jeff Clark and Adam Taggart once again. Jeff, what do you got for us?
We got our usual segments today, Mike, plus a great meme of the day, so stick around for that. And Adam, thank you so much for joining us again this week.
Well, thanks so much, Jeff. A pleasure to be here. And thank you and Mike for coming on the Wealthion conference this past weekend. I got such amazing feedback on your guys' presentations. Can't thank you enough.
It was a lot of fun. We'll talk more about that here a little later. Let's jump right into our article of the day. This is from Zero Hedge. Markets have apparently bought the Fed's, quote, transitory narrative, hook, line, and sinker. And this is actually an article by Jesse Felder at the Felder Report. These are great articles on that site, by the way. But he's basically documenting a lot of the reaction to the higher inflation figure today. Inflation, this new CPI figure came out today. We're almost at 5% on an annualized basis now. So another big jump, actually. And he's basically documenting here that a lot of other parties are showing that the market's reaction is that they believe the Fed and that they believe inflation, the CPI, higher rates of inflation is going to be transitory. Guys, I have a definite opinion on this. This seems ridiculous to me. But Mike, what's your reaction to the market apparently buying into this argument that inflation will in fact be transitory?
Well, we're going to get some sort of inflation, whether it's inflation, disinflation, or deflation. There's going to be inflation. If it does indeed turn out to be transitory, it'll be because we get a whipsaw effect of going into a severe deflation, short-term deflation, but it will be short-term. So my answer is, in the short term, maybe it is transitory. In the long term, it is definitely not. You can't create this quantity of currency and not have the currency land on something. Right now, the Cantillon effect is causing the markets to go up and in just a couple of asset classes. And now we're seeing it make its way into things like lumber and things we've covered in our past videos. So what's your take on this article, Adam?
Boy, I think I'll defer to people who were smarter than me. So at the past weekend conference, we had Lacey Hunt, who really lives in the world of bonds. And Lacey does more or less agree under current conditions that this inflation is going to be transitory. And that's for a whole bunch of reasons that he went through in his presentation. I won't rehash here, but they had to do with debt, demographics, velocity of currency, the loan to deposit ratio at these banks. He talked a lot about how, even with the Fed issuing much more currency in the future, that there is sort of a point of diminishing returns. But he sort of had a lot of charts over the scope of history and said, if history is to be used as a guide here, this probably will be transitory. He did then end it, though, and said, that's under the current framework. If they actually end up altering the Federal Reserve Act and the Fed becomes not just the lender of last resort, but the spender of last resort, which means that they would make the Fed's liabilities legal tender, he said that would be a game changer and we would see rapid inflation coming out of that. I just talked to Danielle DiMartino Booth about an hour before we've hopped on here, and she sees a very sort of similar outlook, although I think she is much more concerned, puts a higher probability on that change in Fed policy. So when you've got somebody who worked for 9 years at the Fed saying that they're very concerned about the dollar potentially getting destroyed by the trifecta of the current administration that we have, Janet Yellen at the U.S. Treasury, and potentially a successor as Brainerd being Powell's successor at the Fed, she thinks that sets things up that we might actually see a framework change and a very high inflationary event after that. So smart people say it could be transitory, but if they change the rules and the odds of them changing the rules aren't terrible, we might get that very worrisome inflation you're mentioning.
Yeah, I think that, transitory in the short term, I think that this is probably correct. We're experiencing some very severe inflation right now in portions of the retail sector. We've seen huge inflation in the asset markets. There's a chart that I came across that's on Wolf Street, and it's used vehicle value index. And since since the March crash of 2020, this has just gone totally insane. So used cars are going up in value at quite a rate. Now, I also went to, I went to several of the big mainland banks, Bank of America, Wells, Citi, and such. And I took a look at what the interest rates are that they're offering on savings accounts. And typically it's 0.01 to 0.05%. That's the savings rate. And we know that that we've had like 3% inflation according to the official statistics for the last. Is that like last month, a 3% annualized? And that's official statistics, which is the CPI. And so savings is enormously negative. And, I don't know the outcome of this, but I just don't see inflation being priced in to certain sectors of the economy. And I think that's because it probably will be transitory. We'll have this huge pullback, a whipsaw, will catch a lot of people off guard. And then I think it's off to the races. That will be the emergency that causes the change in policy that Adam just addressed.
Yeah, good point, Mike. Your deflation argument that you've had for a long time, and of course, a stock market crash would bring that back down as well. But I will point out the CPI was under 2% in January. Do we really believe that it's going back below 2% again? I'll take that bet all day long. So, well, thank you guys. On to tweet of our day here, and this is from Documenting Bitcoin. If you didn't know the news, El Salvador announced that Bitcoin has become legal tender in that country, was just embedded into the blockchain. And as soon as that was announced, Reuters came out with an article saying that the IMF sees legal and economic issues and conflicts and concerns with the El Salvador Bitcoin move. So, Mike, what's your reaction to El Salvador adopting Bitcoin and the IMF's almost predictable reaction?
Well, with all the censorship that has happened lately, you have to look at what is being censored and by whom. The censorship, it's almost certain that whoever is censoring something is on the wrong side, that they can't have an open conversation. Well, here, this is the IMF getting nervous about something. And this is really El Salvador sort of exposing the fact that this is a voodoo monetary system that is sort of rigged to transfer wealth from the poor and middle class to the people that get to run the game, that get to create currency. So yeah, the IMF, it definitely threatens all world central banks. What's your take, Adam?
Well, I agree, and I think this is it's an important milestone here on the global trend toward de-dollarization. So for those that don't know, El Salvador had adopted the US dollar as their main currency. And so this is both providing an alternative to the dollar, the de-dollarization, but it's also, supportive of the trend where people are looking for alternatives to world fiat currencies, right? So this is a big win for people who are fan of cryptocurrencies. What I find really interesting about the IMF news is if I can make a movie analogy here, I think largely what we've seen so far to date in the crypto space is sort of like the first episode, the first Star Wars movie, right? Where the rebels, have a lot of success catching the Empire by surprise. But of course, the second film in the series was The Empire Strikes Back. And I think that story has yet to be written, but we're beginning to see the first acts of it. And, the IMF is definitely a tool of the empire, right? So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens here if the IMF is basically being used as an attack dog to go in and prove a global precedent that says, hey, country, sure, you can adopt a cryptocurrency as legal tender, but here are all the costs that we're going to impose on you if you do so.
Yeah, that's almost predictable. Yeah. So, Well, if you're liking this video, please hit that like button down there below for us, and the notification bell as well. So, well, on to our tweet of the day, or excuse me, our chart of the day. And this is from our friend Michaela on Twitter. Gold is a long-term store of value. UK house prices priced UK houses priced in gold are cheaper today than they were 50 years ago. And she gives a hat tip to Solidus Max here. But you can see in this chart, the green line is the nationwide UK house price in their currency, the pound, versus the blue line, the house prices in gold. And clearly, gold has been a better store of value when buying a home than their own currency. So, Mike, what's your reaction to this great chart?
Well, the main reaction that I've got here, I wrote a little while back something about real estate and gold. And here, is it the gold that changed? Is it the real estate that changed? An ounce of gold is an ounce of gold. The house that they're tracking is the same house, or is it the currency that changed?
Right.
It's the currency's ability to store value that has changed here, not gold's ability to store value or the home's ability to store value. A house, has a certain value to everybody throughout the decades and the centuries. And, it bounces up and down priced in gold, as you can see here. But what is really obvious, you have to turn this graph upside down to see what is actually happening to the currency. Yeah. This looks like the home is going up measured in currency, but it isn't. It's the currency going down measured in homes.
Right. Right. It takes more of them to buy the same thing.
Adam, what's your take?
Yeah, to me, this is just an example of where a picture is worth 1,000 words. I mean, this is the argument for owning precious metals right here, right? Now, it's important to note, though, and this is your main point, Mike, where it's this real price stability that's what fiat currencies are robbing us of, right? If we were on a sound money system, we wouldn't have this disparity. Right. We would have housing would cost the same amount in 50 years, more or less, as it does today. But because we're on this fiat currency system, we're not able to benefit from that. Right. So great picture for that. I just wonder what this picture would look like if it were done in Bitcoin or most other cryptocurrencies. Over the past 10 years, I think that would be a pretty dramatic picture here and showing, let me put it this way, the delta would be an awful lot larger than that, given how the cryptocurrencies have appreciated. So it just shows that, alternatives to fiat currency, if you can find better stores of value, the picture just becomes even more and more stark.
Yeah, great point, Adam. On to viewer feedback here. This is from Oliver Stone Cold Crazy. I like that name there. And this is in response to your comments you made on Tuesday's video, Mike, about how much more it costs how much more food is costing right now, and that it could lead to some type of crisis. And his comment is, in 1906, Alfred Henry Lewis stated, quote, "There are only 9 meals between mankind and anarchy." What do you think, Mike?
That's absolutely true, because the average city has roughly 3 days of food available. And so 9 meals is 3 meals a day for 3 days. And when you run out of food, you got anarchy.
That's absolutely true. I'm just going to jump in there, Jeff. Through the work I used to do at Peak Prosperity, we focused on this an awful lot. And as we got a little bit of preview last year, it takes literally 48 hours for the store shelves to be stripped bare when the trucks stop rolling in. So the veneer between civility and anarchy is really, really very, very thin with our current just-in-time supply chains. But even scarier stat here is, in 2015, the UN Food and Agriculture Organization said that at our current pace of global soil degradation, the world only had 60 harvests left. And so, Mike, I hear a stat like that, and there's been a lot of debate since that statement was made as to whether 60 is the absolute number or not. But it goes to show that we're we're given our current approach to farming, which really strip mines soil. There is an expiration date on that approach, and I think it really underscores the wisdom of your decision to purchase a farm and to start farming sustainably. Because man, if it only takes 9 meals to go from civilization to chaos, once those harvests run out, the picture's not looking good.
Right. The day the world can't grow any more food, it's the day another species needs the evolution that we replaced the dinosaurs and other dominant species. If we run out of food, it's sort of all over for mankind. So
yeah, and that's just talking about our approach to mining how we handle managing the soils. There's also lots of scary trends around water and the availability of water going forward. So we might even have shortages of water accelerate that timeline faster than just the soil itself.
Yeah, like draining the aquifers and things like that. Yes. Okay.
It really argues for everyone having your own garden. That's one way to, buffer against some event like that. So, well, on to our meme of the day. But first, if you've not read Mike's book, the link is down below there, and you can do so for free. And Adam, real quick, tell us if someone wants to watch the videos or see them, if they didn't get to attend, can they still purchase all those?
A great question, Jeff. They can. If somebody wants to purchase all the videos in one fell swoop, they can email us at info@wealthion.com. I will start dribbling out some of those presentations over the next couple of weeks and months on the public channel. So if you can't spend the money right now and you just want to wait, you'll get to see some of those. But if you want to get them all now, and of course, the benefit of that is being able to take action today based upon all those insights, just send us an email there and we'll set you up.
Sounds good. It was a fun event, so it's very well worth the cost. So, well, Mike, tell us about this meme of the day.
Very simple. A couple sitting in front of an IRS agent, and there's the sign above him that says the IRS. And he says, like the sign says, it's all theirs.
Great video today, guys. Thanks for joining us. Thanks, Mike, and thanks, Adam. We'll see you next time.
Thank you,
Pleasure, guys. Thanks.